create. In Repl.it, we have a coding window. We have a space where the output will appear, and we have a console window. So the first thing we need to do is give our code a comment name at the top. So I'm going to use a hashtag to make a comment, and I'm going to say drawing the letter E. So that code will be ignored by Python. It's just a comment there for the user. When we're using the turtle, one of the very first commands we should put in is import turtle. Notice these are all in lowercase, and the word import has changed to blue because it's recognized as a keyword. We should really test that our turtle is working at this point, so I'm going to then just try and say forward 100. Now if I run this code, I get an error appearing in the console. Name forward is not defined. What we need to do anytime we're speaking to the turtle is we need to tell the turtle that the command is for it. So we need to make sure that the turtle is listening to us when we give commands. So I'm going to put turtle.forward, and notice the word forward has changed to purple here. If I run this now, we can see that in the output window we have the turtle has moved and left a line, and then the arrow is waiting for the next command. So our turtle appears to be working. Now what I would like to do is to create the letter E. 100 seems like a good height for my letter. Certainly 100 wide would be too far. In order to be able to make it easy to change things like the height and width, I'm going to declare these as some variables. So I'm going to say max height equals 100. And if we look at the standard letters, our letters tend to be less wide than they are tall. They're about 60%, 2/3, something like that. So I'm going to say max width equals 3 times max height. Now notice as I'm typing, max height and max width are appearing, so I can just choose those with my mouse. So max width equals max height times 3, and then divided by 5. So 3/5 of max height. I can now start to try and draw my letter E. And I'm going to say initially I want to move forward along the bottom line of the letter E. So I'm going to say move forward, and instead of 100 I'm going to say max width. Now when I draw an E, I draw a line along the bottom, and then I draw a line up the way, starting from that same corner. So I'm then going to say turtle dot back max width. And then I need to point up the screen. So I'm going to say turtle dot left. It should be in lowercase. Turtle dot left 90. 90 here represents the number of degrees. So a 90 degrees is a right angle, and it should turn from straight across to straight up and down. And then I'm going to say turtle dot, now instead of typing forward the full word, I'm just going to say FD, which is a shortcut. Notice it's appearing there, the F and the D in blue, showing that the word forward can be abbreviated. So I'm going to go forward, and this time I want to go max height. Now, I don't want to try and draw an entire letter E and then find out I've made mistakes. So what I should do is regularly I should run my code, And you can see that that was a good idea because I have a mistake. The name Turtle is not defined on line 10. So the console here will give you clues as to where you have gone wrong. So I need to go to line 10. I can see that Turtle is my problem there. And I want to change that to Turtle. If I run again, it'll clear the screen and then show. So that looks good so far. In fact, if you think about the letter E, I don't necessarily have to go all the way to the top. What I should probably do is to draw the middle arm, the arm that goes across the way, first of all. So instead of max height, I'm going to go to max height over 2. In other words, half of the height of the normal letter. I'm then going to turtle dot right turn by 90 degrees, and turtle dot forward, or I can just do FD, turtle dot forward max width, turtle dot BK. I can use BK instead of back. Max width. So I go forward the width and back the width, and that will take me back to the middle again. Let's just check that that's working. So yep, I've drawn in the middle arm of the letter E, and then I'm back where I started. So I can probably at this point repeat this section. When I went forward and back to make the bottom arm, I then went up half a letter and made another bit across. So I can then just take this code here, I can copy that, and I can paste it there. And if I run that, then I have completed drawing the letter E. Now the only problem with this is that if I now try to draw my next letter, I'll be starting at the top of the letter E that I've drawn. So really what I want to do is I want to move my cursor, my turtle, down to the baseline and leave a little gap so that I'm then ready to draw my next letter. So one of the things I should do maybe is to not do the turtle.back at the end there. So if I run that, I'll draw my E, and then I'll end up at the end of the top arm of the E. Now I'm going to pick up my pen. I'm going to say turtle.pen up, and then turtle.forward FD. And this time, how much of a gap do I want to leave? I maybe want to, between letters, leave max divided by 5. So a fifth of a letter between this and the next one seems reasonable to me. I then want to do turtle.right 90 to face down the screen. Let me just check that that's working for me. Yep, so I'm ready to now move down. Maybe the gap isn't quite wide enough there. Maybe I should make my my gap max width over 4. I can then turtle.forward by max height, and that'll take me to the bottom again. And then lastly, to be ready to draw the next letter, I'm going to say turtle.left turn. Now left turn I can just say LT for left by 90. So if I run all of that, I draw an E, and now I'm ready to draw my next letter, with a little bit of a gap. Now, it would be very useful if, instead of just doing single commands all the time, we were to make a named recipe for the letter E. So we are going to define a procedure. I'm going to say def, as in I am defining, I'm making the definition of how to make an E. And I'm going to call it letter_E. And I need to put some open and close brackets there to make this into a callable procedure. The other thing I need to do is to put a colon so that it says everything that comes after this colon is what makes the letter E. Now, if I try to run this, it's going to say bad input on line 8. And that's because anything that follows the colon, the recipe itself, has to be moved in from the side of the screen. It has to be indented. So I'm going to highlight all of my commands and I'm going to press the tab key. I'll maybe press 2 tabs so that that's obvious. So you can see that def letter E is at the side of the screen, and then all of the commands have been moved in below that. And if I run my code now, nothing seems to happen. And the reason for that is because although I now have a recipe for the letter E, I haven't actually asked Turtle to draw the letter E. So I do that by sometime after the recipe, I put in letter_E, no colon this time. I'm asking it to do the instructions instead of telling it how to do the instructions. And if I run that now, you can see, sure enough, it goes away, it finds the recipe, and it draws the letter E. And in actual fact, what I can do now that I've got a recipe, I can ask it to make 3 letter E's in a row. Each time I ask it to draw the letter E, I need to complete that by putting some empty round brackets afterwards. But if I run this code now, you'll see that it uses the recipe to draw an E, then it uses it to draw another E, and then it uses it to draw another E. But what I forgot to do, although it drew my E and then a space, I forgot to put the pen back down. So to get this working, I have to make sure at the end of my letter E, having lifted up the pen to make a gap, I have to come down here and say turtle.pen down, or I could use PD. PU for pen up, PD for pen down. And if I run this now, it draws my first E, it draws my second E, and it draws my third E. So, one last thing that we'll do. Before we attempt to do any of our drawings, we are just going to say, up at the top here, turtle.set y minus 50. So that means it's going to move down the screen a little bit. And I'm going to say turtle.set x minus 300. And if I run that, you see it's moved over. It's moved too far for my small screen here. And it's also left a trail that is making it difficult to see what's going on. So the last thing I'm just going to do here is turtle.pen up and turtle.pen down.